I wanted to just comment quickly on the Gospel Coalition's latest article, the one where the man compares Kyle Rittenhouse and he calls him an armed mass shooter in the same way that Dylann Roof was an armed mass shooter. And a lot of people jumped all over it, rightfully so, because it's a ridiculous statement. But I think that one thing that you don't want to miss about that is the fact that Gospel Coalition isn't just making an oopsie. You know what I mean? Like, this is not a matter of Gospel Coalition not having all the facts, because this article came out days after the video went, viral, and information has been out for a long time about what was going on with that whole situation. The video itself even shows the man being chased down by a bunch of thugs in the riots in Kenosha, Wisconsin. And so, there is no excuse. And at this point, honestly, there is no excuse for lying about a video that you see on the internet, because every single time one of these shootings happens, whether it's a black shooting or a white shooting or whatever, and it's spun in the media, we always find out that there was a lot of information that went into it. Sometimes the person was violent. Sometimes the person was beating up the cops. Sometimes the person was doing this or that. Sometimes the person was high as a freaking kite and died of drug overdose. Like, there's so many examples at this point that it's immoral to jump to conclusions. You know what I mean? Because we've been duped again and again and again. And this is the collective we. I'm not talking about me or you, because people in this audience, we don't get duped like this. We just simply don't. And so the reality is that Gospel Coalition article, it's not a matter of not having the right information. It's not a matter of, making a mistake. It's not a matter of fake news or anything like that. It's a matter of Gospel Coalition developing a taste for lying, for bearing false witness. Gospel Coalition has developed a taste for it, and so they're not going to change. This is not something that you can expect them to change, because if they change and repented of their consistent, and I don't mean like a few times, like almost to the man, consistent bearing false witness against people when there's a new shooting in the media or whatever like that. This is just their language. They lie. They just simply love to lie. And so the only way to repent of these lies is to stop lying. And I would say in the case of the Gospel Coalition, you would have to stop talking about these issues for a long time. Like, you have to take a break here, because you've done so much damage at this point in pushing this this delusional narrative, right? This delusional narrative that cops are out there hunting down black people and white people are committing all these horrendous acts against black people because they go out hunting for black people and stuff like that. That's the kind of language that you get. And this is not just harmless rhetoric. I remember doing a video a long time ago, two years ago, and I said something like, I want to talk to you guys because the only way to solve an issue if you refuse to talk about it is violence. And so we see violence now. And so all of this stuff, like Gospel Coalition and the narratives that they push and the delusions that they push onto Christians has helped continue this fire. They're putting gasoline onto the fire that we see in our country right now. And the reality is that this is not an oopsie. It's just that they've developed a taste for this. They like the pats on the back they get from liberals through their lies. And so they're never going to stop until God stops them one way or another. They've developed a taste for lying. They love to lie, and they will continue to lie. This is not like the kind of thing where, some people think, especially pagans, like to think this. Well, if they just had more information, they wouldn't have done this. No. You don't understand. If that's what you think about Gospel Coalition, like they're just making mistakes and stuff, and they're just speaking too soon. Oftentimes they'll say, "Well, I jumped to conclusions. Oops." But actually, that's not the case at all, because they've never learned their lesson, and they will never learn their lesson because they don't want to learn the lesson. You see what I'm saying? Like if you have a motivation, you hit what you aim for, right? You hit what you aim for. So if you have a motivation to learn your lesson and to maybe not speak about these issues, before the information comes out, or even, God forbid, after the information comes out, not speak of them in such a way that is inflammatory. And not only is it inflammatory, I don't have a problem with something being inflammatory so long as it's true. These are untruths that are inflammatory. Like, this is the worst kind of division, is an untruth that's also inflammatory, intended to divide people up in the body of Christ and in the culture at large, like a pizza. Like, I can't think of something more evil than this, where you know what you're saying is false because the information tells you it's false. You say it anyway, and you do it to divide people up like a pizza. You want to see this mother burn. And so it's like, they're not going to learn their lesson. Gospel Coalition is gone. It's beyond its usefulness. And the reality is that for every good article that Gospel Coalition has, you could find the better articles at other resources that aren't also going to lie to you and in order to continue this fire going. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's the reality. Gospel Coalition will never learn their lesson because they don't want to learn the lesson. They are motivated to keep this going. Okay? And so you have to, at some point, we have to cut ties. We just have to nip it in the bud. As much as, the reason for God might have affected you and helped you out in your walk like it did for me, as much as the prodigal God might have helped you in your walk and understanding the gospel like it did for me, eventually what God says is someone like this, a divisive person, and I would say that this organization is just a divisive organization. They lie to you intentionally to keep you divided. What do you do with a divisive person? You warn them twice, and then you have nothing more to do with them. Gospel Coalition has had ample warnings about this. Ample warnings. And I'm not talking about me. They don't listen to me. I understand. But they've had ample warnings from legitimate, conference speaking circuit type folks as well. People that were on the conference speaking, when I say legitimate, I mean from their eyes. Obviously, I don't need their legitimacy to be legitimate. I'm talking about from their eyes, the circuit people, the authors, stuff like that, people that had ministries that they used to promote. They've had ample warnings. But the thing is, this is the way sin works. Once you get a taste for it, right? Once you get a taste for it, and nothing really cataclysmic happens, like God doesn't strike you then and there. Look, we all know this. This is how it works in our life. God doesn't strike you dead right then and there. You start to develop a taste for it if you don't flee from it right away. You start to develop a taste for it. And you're like, oh, well, we get a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. Before you know it, you're the social gospel coalition. You see what I'm saying? Gospel coalition should be avoided. You shouldn't be promoting their articles. You seem like this should be avoided. Like, you should be pleading. If you have friends that write for the Gospel Coalition, you should be pleading with them. Separate from them. Come out from her. Because these people have the language that the pagans have. Like, it's the same language. It's just lying and lying and lying, all to promote this ridiculous delusion of a narrative that has been foisted upon us by revolutionary people in our midst. Revolutionary people. I'm telling you, guys, you're not doing anyone any good by trying to maintain connections with this organization. This organization is cancerous. And what do you do with a cancerous organization? You cut it out. You cut it out. Or you could, or just flamethrower, because that's the reality. Someone else pointed this out because there was a controversy. Someone was saying that James White commented that he was very specific with Eric Mason's error, and he was very measured about it, and I was some kind of a flamethrower or something like that. James White didn't say this. Somebody else said this. And the reality is that okay, fine, you can cut it out like a cancer, use a scalpel and cut it out, but you got to do it though. But you got to do it. See, that's the thing. Like, James White wasn't pulling punches from Eric Mason, right? Like he still did the work. Like, he was still cutting this cancer out, or at least attempting to. So whatever way you want to do it, you want to use a scalpel, fine. You want to use a flamethrower, fine, because it's definitely deserved at this point. It's definitely deserved. The cancer has spread throughout the entire organization. It's just that simple. It's time to come out of her. Gospel Coalition used to be good, but they developed a taste for lying early on, way before I've been on YouTube. They developed this taste for lying, and it's just been growing over time. And now you see this stuff. Is it Libel's the one where you write it down? liable. I mean, like Kyle Rittenhouse should probably sue the Gospel Coalition for putting him in the category of mass shooter in the same way that Dylann Roof was a mass shooter before any of these things have been adjudicated. Even after knowing that there's way more to this narrative than you've been told by the mainstream media, they're still lying about it. Like, Kyle Rittenhouse should sue the Gospel Coalition out of existence, God willing. Because the reality is that this is like, again, this didn't happen overnight. They just developed this taste for lying in the service of a false narrative, and frankly, in the service of a false religion, because this woke religion is a false religion. And so whether or not you want to take the scalpel approach and just, slice out the cancer, or you want to go the chemotherapy route where it's just flamethrower to the cancer, killing everything in sight, you have to start doing that work of separating from this conference speaking circuit. It's done. It's over. This is a net negative at this point. I'm willing to hear arguments for the contrary. I'm willing to hear arguments of why Gospel Coalition isn't just, at this point, a net negative. But I don't think you'll be able to convince me. But I'm glad to hear it. Sorry for the downer, but it's just like that article. I'm not going to go into the whole thing about why it's wrong. Why other people have done that. But I don't want you to miss this. It's not an oopsie. It's not just a mistake. It's not just, I spoke too soon. Oops. No. They like to lie, and so they'll continue to lie. They won't learn this lesson because they're not motivated to learn this lesson.